You can make millions of coins at the Blast Furnace even if you just started your account today. Blast Furnace also provides some of the best smithing experience in the game. Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and welcome to my Blast Furnace guide. The Blast Furnace is members only content. At the furnace you can make bars using only half the amount of coal you would normally use, so you actually get some extra profit per bar, and then you can make a ton of bars at one time instead of the typical one bar at a time at a normal furnace. In this guide I'm going to talk about all the things that you need to know about the Blast Furnace, including the coal bag, how to travel there, tips on banking faster, and then we'll look at each type of bar, how the typical trips for those bars work, and then the kind of XP and GP rates that you can get from them. As usual, there will be chapters on the timeline to help you skip to specific parts if you need it. First of all, the coal bag is incredibly helpful for Blast Furnace gains. The coal bag can hold up to 27 coal, 36 rather if you're wearing a smithing cape. As long as you're making bars that require coal, the coal bag basically doubles your speed at the furnace since you can take more ores per bank trip. You can get your coal bag from the Motherlode mine. Prospector Percy will sell you one for 100 golden nuggets. This is not a fast process. This does require at least 30 mining to get started, and exactly how long it takes does depend on what your mining level is and what pickaxe you have. Usually 10 to 12 hours of Motherlode mine is what I expect for getting a coal bag, maybe a little bit faster with a higher mining level and pickaxe. You don't have to get the coal bag before you start the Blast Furnace, but it will make a big enough difference that it's very worth just sending the Motherlode mine in the first place, even all the time spent there. Plus, you'll get some ores at the Motherlode mine that you could use at the Blast Furnace or sell them on the grain exchange and then buy specifically whichever ores for whichever bar you're trying to make. And you also don't have to do all of the Motherlode mine hours in one sitting. If you're bored on working on golden nuggets, then you could go work on other skills or quests to change things up. You could also just send some Blast Furnace before you have the coal bag and then go back to Motherlode mine later once you feel like you'd rather double your Blast Furnace speed. This will also make you appreciate the coal bag a little bit more. If you send a Blast Furnace without it at first and then you get yours, you're going to be a little bit more excited to have it. It is most efficient to just go get the coal bag right away before you start Blast Furnace, but it's never a bad option to change things up if you're getting bored of a grind. So how do you access the Blast Furnace? The furnace is located in the dwarven city of Keldegrim. This is north of Seers Village. First time you go there, you'll have to make the walk from Seers Village, or there is a fairy ring DKS that is pretty close as well. Enter the caves and speak to the dwarven boatman to start the giant dwarf quest. Once you get through a cutscene and then talk to the commander, you have access to the whole city. You do not have to complete the quest any further to be able to use the Blast Furnace. The furnace itself is located down the stairs of this building in the eastern part of the city. Once you have access to Keldegrim, you don't have to walk there anymore. You can use the minecart system from the Grain Exchange to get to Keldegrim quickly, and there's also a minigame teleport in your grouping tab, which will take you directly to the Blast Furnace. To use the Blast Furnace, you need to place ores on the conveyor belt, which will put them in the furnace and create bars. Then you need to use a bucket of water on the hot bars to take them out of the dispenser. If you're wearing ice gloves, then you will not need to use a bucket of water on the bars, which does speed up the process a little bit. The furnace does require more steps to actually run it, but as long as you go to an official Blast Furnace world, there will still be some dwarves that run it for you for a fee of 72k GP an hour. You could make like a bunch of alt accounts or find people to run the furnace for you, but just saving 72k GP an hour, it's really not worth it. You're going to make a ton of bars, you're going to make up that money no problem. To pay the dwarves, you just need to put coins in this coffer right by the bank. This can only be done on official Blast Furnace worlds. If you are below 60 smithing, you'll have to pay the foreman to be allowed to use the furnace. This is whether or not you're on a Blast Furnace world, this will always be the case. Paying him 2.5k will give you access for 10 minutes. This fee is really only annoying because you have to repay every 10 minutes. If they let you pay for multiple hours at a time for like 2.5k per 10 minutes at that same price still, that would be a little bit nicer, but it really only takes a couple seconds to pay the foreman, so it's not that big of a deal. So the game loop of the Blast Furnace really is to take ores out of the bank, put them on the conveyor belt, grab the bars from the dispenser. You might need a bucket of water, which there is a bucket and a water source in the Blast Furnace area, but I do highly suggest killing the Ice Queen to get the ice gloves as soon as possible. Then bank the bars that you just got from the dispenser and repeat the process. If you're under 60 smithing, you got to pay the foreman every 10 minutes, but otherwise it's a very simple process. It does involve a lot of running, so getting your graceful outfit is going to be very helpful, and you are going to be using stamina potions to make sure that you're always running. Stamina pots do add a little bit of cost to the process, but overall you're going to make more money than you'll spend on stamina potions. They are worth using to make sure you don't ever walk. There's a couple of little things that you could set up to make the process a little bit easier. For one, being able to empty your coal bag with a shift click. If you go to your in-game options and just type shift when searching for them, this shift drop option will also work for the coal bag by emptying it for you. That way you can just left click to fill the coal bag up with coal, and you can just shift left click to empty it. If you're on RuneLite, you can use the menu entry swapper plugin to be able to make this a little bit easier in the bank as well. Go ahead and open your bank and shift right click on your coal bag, and you'll see that you can set the shift click option. You can set this to fill because you can fill your coal bag from your bank, and this way you can shift click to fill your coal bag from the bank. You never really have to click on your pile of coal. You can use this same menu entry swapper to be able to sip from your stamina potion. If you shift right click on a stamina potion, you can see that you can set up your shift click option to drink the potion. And then finally, also setting up the escape key to close the bank interface can make it a little bit quicker getting out of the bank. This can be done in your in-game settings. Now we'll go over what each trip looks like and what kind of GP and XP rates that you can get from each bar, starting with steel bars. Steel bars require 30 smithing to get started. If you don't have 30 smithing yet, I would suggest doing the Knight's Sword quest and the Sleeping Giants quest. Those two quests are both very quick to do, and the two of them combined will jump you up over 30 smithing, even if you're at 0 smithing XP right now. It normally would be 1 iron and 2 coal to make a steel bar, but it's only 1 coal per iron ore at the blast furnace. So each trip you can fill up your coal bag with coal, and then the rest of the inventory with iron. Before you start making steel bars, you should send 1 trip where you put only coal in the blast furnace. If you put iron ore on that conveyor belt before there's any coal in there, it is going to make iron bars, so make sure to put some coal in there to get started. You can make up to 5k steel bars an hour if you're cruising. This could be slowed down if you're under 60 smithing and you're paying the foreman. And in general, you're not going to hit max pace the first couple times you try the blast furnace. There's a lot of bank trips overall, so even losing like 1 or 2 game ticks during the bank trip does make for a lot less bars per hour. Plus, if you're not using the coal bag, you can basically cut these numbers in half. Prices often do fluctuate, but at the blast furnace, steel bars currently profit about 120 coins a piece. 3k to 5k steel bars an hour would be 360k to 600k GP an hour. Minus those other costs, you could be getting up to about 500k GP an hour with steel bars, and this would get you about 87k smithing XP an hour. Mithril bars can be made at 50 smithing, and at the blast furnace you only need 2 coal per myth ore. The typical pattern for trips with myth ore would be 1 inv of just coal, including the coal in the coal bag of course, and then the next 2 inventories you can bring myth ore and coal in the coal bag. Technically it does not matter the exact order that you bring ores, as long as you never fill too much coal or too many primary ores without taking bars out. The furnace can hold a max of 254 coal, and if you try to put any more coal in there when it's full, you're then bringing some coal back to the bank, which wastes some time. And also, if you try to put any mithril ore on the belt while there's already bars to pick up, it won't let you do it, and that wastes a trip as well. As long as you don't hit either of those scenarios, it really doesn't matter technically what order you're bringing the ores in. You can push 3k to 3.5k myth bars an hour, maybe closer to like 2 to 2.5k if you're just getting started and paying the foreman. At the moment, you profit about 230 coins per myth bar. This would be about 570 to 800k GP an hour, minus the cost of the furnace and stamina potions. You get around 700k an hour making myth bars, and the XP rates would be anywhere from 75k to 105k smithing XP an hour. Adamant bars require 70 smithing to make. You're going to need 3 coal per adamant ore. The trip pattern would first be 1 trip of double coal, and then the second trip you would just bring coal and adamant and then repeat. Again, technically this trip pattern doesn't matter as long as you never overfill the furnace. You can get up to 2.8k Addy Bars an hour. We'll say a range of 2 to 2.8k an hour. At the moment, Addy Bars are about 305 coins per bar profit. That would be 610 to 854k GP an hour. Minus those costs, you get nearly 800k GP an hour profit by doing Addy Bars. This would also get you about 75 to 105k XP an hour, similar to those Mithril Bars. And then finally, for the money-making bars, we have Rune Bars. These require 85 smithing to make, and you will need 4 coal per rune ore to make a rune bar. Typically, you would do 2 trips of double coal, then a trip with coal and rune ore, then 1 more double coal trip followed by a trip with rune ore and coal, and then repeat those 5 trips overall. Again, technically it doesn't matter as long as you never overfill the furnace or try to put rune ore while there's rune bars waiting for you. Rune bars currently profit about 450 coins at the time of making this video, which is actually pretty low compared to what I'm used to them being at. You can currently make up to 2,000 rune bars an hour, so even at the low profit point, you'd be looking at 675k to 900k GP an hour from rune bars, maybe closer to like 800k profit per hour once you account the cost for using the furnace itself with those dwarves. This is still the most profitable bar to make at the furnace currently, but I usually expect rune bars to be a little bit over 1 mil GP an hour when the prices are looking nicer. Before we wrap up the video, we do have gold bars. Gold bars at the blast furnace provide the best smithing XP in the game. You do need goldsmith gauntlets to make this viable. The gauntlets are a reward from the family crest quest, and if you're wearing them when you make gold bars, you get more than twice as much XP per bar. You do want to use the goldsmith gauntlets and the ice gloves gloves during the process, it's important to make sure that you have your goldsmith gauntlets on when the furnace makes bars. You want to be wearing the gauntlets when you get the XP drop, otherwise you get a lot less XP. And then after you see the XP drop, you can put on your ice gloves and take out the bars from the dispenser, putting your goldsmith gauntlets back on after you grab the bars. Technically, it is a little bit faster to go grab more ore from the bank, then start another trip instead of waiting for the bars to show up for a couple of ticks. So like your very first trip of gold, you could just put gold on the conveyor belt and go right back to the bank. And while you're banking, it'll finish the first set of gold bars. You can then put more gold on the conveyor belt the second time, pick up the first trip of gold bars from the dispenser, and it'll make the second trip of bars while you're banking again. To do this, you do have to be a little bit more tick perfect with the gloves. And even though it's a bit of a boost in speed, I usually skip this part of the process if I'm sending gold bars and just kind of do it casually. You can make upwards of 6,000 gold bars an hour, closer to 6.5k if you're nearing tick perfect rates. That would be up to 360k smithing XP an hour. You do not profit while making gold bars though. These are just for getting faster XP. You're generally losing like 600 or 700k GP an hour when turning gold ore into gold bars. Since you do take a ton of trips when making gold bars, making your trip as fast as possible does make a big difference. Even taking one tick longer in the bank every trip would lose a decent amount of XP an hour. This means that you won't consistently get your max XP unless you're really locked in, but it's still pretty easy to get over 300k XP an hour here. The blast furnace can be used to make a lot of money even at low levels. This is always the place I would go for like a brand new members account that's trying to make cash. You can go right to the blast furnace and you can get really good smithing XP rates if you're trying to maybe even get a skill cape. If you have any questions about the blast furnace, be sure to let me know in the comments section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed the video or you just got some useful information out of it, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching and best of luck on your blast furnace grinds.